Hi, I'm Bridget, and thank you so much for joining me today for this nice, slow, and gentle stretch. And this is going to be a really great one for when you're feeling a little bit short on time, but you really want to take some time for yourself and just slow down. So we're going to get started today in our wide-legged child's pose. So coming onto all fours, we're going to walk the big toes together and then bring the knees as wide as your yoga mat and just sink the hips down towards the heels. Walk the arms out nice and long in front of you. Letting the head relax down towards your mat. You can let the forehead rest. Maybe going for a little rock from side to side here. Deepening the breath, so taking a nice deep breath in through the nose and exhale out through the nose. Feeling the body start to open up a little bit here, so we're pressing the hips down towards the heels. You should feel a nice release through the lower back and nice and active through the arms here as well, almost drawing the chest down towards our mat, and you should feel that opening through the shoulders here. Nice stretch through the arms, lengthening of the spine. And just closing down the eyes if you haven't already here. Maybe counting the breaths as they pass. And we'll take 3 more nice long deep breaths here in our child's pose. So really see if you can extend your inhale and then exhale as well. Filling the body and the lungs with air. Exhale, you can let yourself get really heavy here. One more. And then really nice and slowly, we'll look forward between the hands and start to walk the hands back in. We're going to come all the way back up onto all fours, so into our tabletop. So we're stacking the shoulders above the wrists here, the hip points above the knees, pressing down into the tops of the feet. And then see if you can flatten out through the spine here. Draw the belly button up towards the back of the spine and just feel this out a little bit. Take a moment to get yourself set up. So spread the fingers really nice and wide and press down into all 10 fingerprints. And then we're going to move through a couple of rounds of our cat-cow to warm up the spine. So with an inhale, we're going to start to curl the tailbone up, drop through the belly, send the chest forward, really squeezing the shoulder blades back, and then maybe looking forward, if that feels okay, through the head and the neck. On an exhale, we'll start to curl the tailbone under and round through the spine. And then let the top of the head drop down towards your mat. And then just moving back and forth, seeing if you can sync the movement up with the breath. Moving nice and slowly along the spine. So seeing if you can start at the base of the spine and then make your way all the way up to the head. You should start to feel the muscles warming up here. We're nice and strong through the arms, so pressing into the hands. Nice and active through the core as we move through our cat pose. So hugging that belly button up. And then we move back through our cow pose. I think I say this every time, but the way I remember cat-cow is our cat is like a little Halloween cat with the rounded spine. And then before we move from our cat-cow, you might like to take a couple of circles of the spine. So just move however feels good here. You might like to move the hips a little bit from side to side. Just stretching it out. And then making our way back to center, we're going to come back through seated, so cross one heel over the other, and then just gently walk the hands back, and we'll come to seated. I'm going to come back to center on my mat. So whatever seated position feels most comfortable for you here, I've just got my ankles crossed. And then when you get comfortable, we're going to find some nice length through the spine. So sitting up nice and tall, drop the shoulders away from the ears, imagining a nice long line from the top of the head all the way down to the tailbone. We're still nice and active through the core here and almost hugging those lower ribs down. Then we're going to plant the right palm beside us and inhale up and over with the left hand, reaching over towards the right side of the room. Keep those shoulders drawing down here. They're kind of going to want to squeeze up towards the ears. We're going to keep them drawing down and keep that nice length through the spine. So rather than trying to get into a certain kind of shape, try and keep that nice length, and you'll feel that nice side body opening here. You might find a little bit of movement, maybe coming all the way down onto that right elbow. Maybe closing down the eyes. You might like to look up here if it feels okay through the neck. Keeping those nice long deep breaths moving here. And then on an exhale, we'll slowly come back up and through center. Take a moment, take a couple of rolls of the shoulders before we take it to the other side. Find that length through the spine. And then we plant the left palm and inhale up and over with the right hand this time, reaching over towards the left side of the room. Maybe finding a little bit of movement. We're going to try and keep both of those knees drawing down here. You might notice as well that they want to start to lift up. We're going to keep them drawing down and keeping both sit bones pressing nice and firm into our mat. So find a little bit of movement, maybe come down onto that elbow. And then maybe looking up if it feels okay through the neck here. One more breath here. And then slowly we'll make our way back up and to center. From here, we're going to come back through our tabletop, so onto all fours, and make our way to our first downward facing dog. So from your tabletop, we're going to walk the hands forward just an inch or two, tuck the toes under, and then press to lift the knees away from your mat and send the hips back. You can bend the knees as much as you need to here, really flattening out through the spine, pressing down into all 10 fingerprints. Find a little bit of movement here, so pedal it out through the feet, breathing into the backs of the legs. And then finding stillness for a breath. When you're ready, we're going to ground down through the left heel and inhale to our three-legged dog. So lifting up through that right leg and turn the right toes down towards your mat. So leveling out the hips. We've got those right toes turned down here. See if you can create a nice long line from the top of the head right down to that right heel. And then on an exhale, we're going to hug that knee in towards the chest and shift the weight forward onto the hands. Exhale, we find our three-legged dog. And then on our next exhale, we're going to step that right foot forward between the hands and lower that left knee. Find your low lunge here. So find a little bit of movement. You might rock a little bit side to side. See if you can find a little bit of space through the chest here. So roll the shoulders back, opening up nice and long through the head of the neck. You can untuck those left toes if you'd like to. Find a little bit of movement. You might like to stretch out through that front leg. Moving a little bit back and forth. So just some nice gentle movement here, whatever feels good. You might even like to come up off the fingertips and reach the hands up and overhead. Nice stretch through the front body here, seeing if you can keep the tailbone tucked under a little bit here so we're not crashing into the lower back. And then bringing the hands back down to the mat if you haven't got them there already. We're going to lift that left knee away from our mat and then step the right foot back to meet the left in our plank. And we'll hold here for 2 nice deep breaths. Again, see if you can find that nice long line from the top of the head right down to the heels. And then on an exhale, we're going to shift the weight forward on the hands and lower all the way down to the belly. Untuck the toes. We'll find our cobra, our heart opener. So bring the palms underneath the shoulders and then press to lift through the chest here. So being careful of the lower back, we're pressing down into our hip points, into the tops of the feet. Draw the shoulder blades back. And then exhale to lower. And you can come back up through your tabletop. So back up through all fours and find your way to your downward facing dog. Or you might like to come up through your plank, so pressing up through plank and then sending the hips back and meeting in downward facing dog. Pedal out the feet when you get there. Again, just find a little bit of movement. And then finding stillness for a breath. When you're ready, we're going to take it to the other side. So we'll ground down through the right heel this time. Inhale that left leg up. Turn the left toes down and level out the hips. Seeing if you can press into both hands evenly. And then on an exhale, we'll draw that knee in towards the chest. Send the weight forward on the hands. Inhale. And exhale to send that leg back. On your next exhale, we're going to step that left foot all the way forward between the hands and find our low lunge. So you can lower that right knee when you get there. Go for a little rock from side to side. So just feel this side out. You might notice that this side feels a little different from the other side. Just checking in, noticing. You might like to rock it back, stretching out through that left leg. Draw the toes back. Maybe moving back and forth here. And then from your low lunge, you might like to lift the hands away from the mat on this side and reach them up and overhead. Again, you might need to press into that left foot a little bit so that you can give yourself a little bit of space just to tuck that tailbone under. Reaching nice and long through the arms. Breathing deeply here. And then we'll exhale the hands back down to the mat if you haven't got them already. And we'll make our way back to our plank. So lift that right knee away from your mat. We're going to step the left foot back to meet the right and flatten out through the spine here. Nice long line from the top of the head down to the tailbone, really nice and active through our core. And then on an exhale, we'll shift the weight forward, lower all the way down to the belly, hug those elbows in towards you. And then we find our cobra. So pressing down into the tops of the feet, bring the palms underneath the shoulders and press to lift, opening up through heart space. And exhale to lower. We'll make our way back to a child's pose. So keeping the knees together this time, we'll bring the feet together and then lower the hips down onto the heels, reaching the arms out nice and long. You can let your forehead rest on your mat again here. Maybe going for a little rock from side to side. Closing down the eyes. We're still nice and active here, so reaching through the arms and drawing the hips down towards the heels. we're going to make our way back up through our tabletop and come to a nice comfortable seated position. So just cross one heel over the other and come back through seated. We're going to work on opening up through the backs of the legs a little bit more here. So we'll send both legs out long in front of us and then draw the toes back towards your chest. Again, see if you can get nice and tall through the spine here. So you might need to grab a block or a book or a cushion or something to sit up onto if you feel like you're rounding back a little bit here. So find that nice length through the spine. You can give the knees a nice generous bend here as well. And then we'll inhale the hands up and overhead. And exhale, we start to reach the hands forward, lowering the belly down towards the legs. And then rounding forward through the head and the neck, letting the upper body get really nice and heavy here. We're still drawing those toes back. You should feel a nice stretch through the backs of the legs. And just let your hands rest wherever feels comfortable. Nice deep breaths here. Close down the eyes if you haven't already. Starting to slow down a little bit more before we close our practice. And then when you're ready, we'll tuck the chin in towards the chest, slowly roll it back up to seated, so walking the hands back in. And we're going to make our way all the way back to lie down. And before we make our way to our shavasana, we will close with a supine twist. So we'll send the left leg out long, hug the right knee in towards the chest. You might need to adjust the hips a little bit here, so maybe moving them over to the right edge of your mat so that you've got a little bit more space. Then on an exhale, we'll drop that right knee down over to the left side. Seeing if you can keep both shoulders pressing down into your mat, so that right knee might not make it all the way down. And you might like to send the right arm out long and then turn onto the right side of the head, deepening the twist a little bit. And then gently we'll make our way back to center, so unraveling. And then we'll take it to the other side, so send the right leg out long. And then we'll hug the left knee in towards the chest. Again, check out where the hips are. You might like to move the hips over towards the left a little bit more so that you've got some space. To exhale, drop that left knee over towards the right side this time. Keep the shoulders pressing down into your mat. And then maybe you'd like to send that left arm out to the side and then turn onto the left side of your head. Breathing along the length of the spine. And then gently unraveling, coming back to center. And we'll make our way to our shavasana, so you can send both the legs out nice and long. If that feels uncomfortable through the lower back, you can bend the knees and then just let them fall in towards one another. Send the arms out to either side. Give yourself permission to take up space here. Get out any little wiggly movements so that you can really find stillness and become really present in this moment. So we start to let the breath return to normal. Feeling the body melt down towards the earth with each exhale. Let yourself get really heavy. We're not judging anything here, but maybe just noticing how the body feels. Seeing if there's anywhere else you can let go a little bit more. And just knowing that you are exactly where you need to be in this moment. And I'm going to leave you here in your shavasana. You might like to build onto your practice a little bit more here. Otherwise, staying in your shavasana for as long as you would like to. But thank you so much for joining me for this practice today, and I hope you are feeling amazing, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Namaste.